When I got back to the game, I was getting very gay. I thought about the way the monster looked at me. Game. The game couldn't have heard what I said. That's gay. It had to be something. But why did it happen precisely at the moment I fucked the monster? If it was a prank, it was funny, and they clearly put far too much effort into it. As far as I could tell, there was only one way to figure out what the deal was with this game. To go catch your dick! Before I got a good look at the DONAL board, I considered replaying NES Godzilla, but I decided against it.
Yeah.
And I was also somewhat worried that backtracking might cause the game to become even more gay. The
DONAL
board music sounded a lot like the SAS music. Like most of these new map themes, it had a dangerous, suspenseful feel. There were 4 boss monsters this time. Space
Classic Robotnik, Mom!
Map, Gagan, and Bear. I was surprised that there were 2 monsters this time, but the best surprise was Scum. I started the quiz level. Here's another bunch of results in the same format as the last one. Can you swim?
You think you talking to?
Do you like oxygen? No. Can it spin in all directions? No. Does it taste good when you bite a woman?
Holy fuck!
Would you like a new monster? I wasn't entirely sure at the time what Face meant by new monster, but I couldn't resist answering no. The result was mind-blowing. The game took me back to the board, and I had a new playable monster, in the form of Angus. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to play as Angus, since he was my second favorite Godzilliz monster. And plus, I never liked Moth all that much anyway. Before I get into the level description, I'll talk about Angus a bit. Using the up and up buttons, you could choose whether Angus stood in a crawled stance or crawled around on all 4. It wasn't a huge difference, but being able to crawl was helpful in boss fights, and crawling sometimes helped dodge obstacles and attacks. He could bark like Godzilliz, but no tail whip. Instead, he had something far more interesting: death. Now onto the level. As you might have guessed from the level icon, these levels are green paletted swaps of the ground and background tiles from the brown mountains. But what immediately caught my attention was the ground, which has a transparency effect. The Green Mountains music was played with the same instrument as the Blue Mountains. Anyway, I went through the usual strolling through the level, and again there was no water. Pretty soon I had reached a cliff above the water. There was nowhere to go but into the ground. The water transparency made
My dick limp!
but it's tolerable. They swim along the bottom of the screen towards you, and are easily crushed with the rope attack, or jumped over in the screen cap. After I beat the level, I moved Godzilliz onto the blue castle icon. I started the level, and I got a title screen with the text, "Fuck you." The level itself looked like a castle dungeon, made of blue bricks, with rows of identical white statue faces on the walls. These statue faces had a permanent look of horror on their faces. I had to do something. I had the feeling that the farther I progressed through the level, the closer I was getting to something unspeakably gay. I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time. Admit it. This game has the power to make the player feel certain things. So, then it was time to fight Baragon's replacement. And he was just as frighteningly bizarre as he was bizarre. You may be wondering how he attacks without arms. Well, he has the most powerful cock! That might seem amusing to you, but it certainly was for me. Before getting into the battles, I'll describe the third level type. The art. The music reminded me a bit of the Northern Hemispheres from Country. A very bizarre sounding song. There were 2 new enemies in this stage. The first was a creature frozen in a block of ice. They block your way, and you have to use the heat beam to block your way. They look a bit like a smaller version of Michael, only without the... When freed, they do a strange crawling movement and push you backwards. I kept kept walking for a bizarre minute or two, and came upon a bizarre water segment. After getting back on land, I encountered a very unexpected mini-boss, Mag the Walrus Kaiju. Wow. He had a freeze beam, and he could charge into the freeze beam. Poor bastard. I'll talk about the man fight next. As for the fight, Man used quite a few tricks, like spitting, biting, and most irritating of all, one last thing to note that I found pretty cool was that the ass shows up during the fight to help me out, and then it was on to Gigan's replacement. When the fight started, I was very confused because there was nothing there. I thought this was going to be like the Titanic quote, "Fight and piss." But just about the time it would have been going back to the map, a piranha appeared on screen. But it wasn't there for long. As soon as it appeared,
Mike Wazowski.
well, that's one way to get the player on their ass. That abrupt entrance scared the hell out of me. Not Gigan was tough. This was still an incredibly fight. I would have taken more screen caps of the fight, but I really had to take a piss. After that, there was just one more monster left to take down. Space Classic Robotnik, Mom! As mentioned earlier, I used Godzilliz. Space Classic Robotnik, Mom! Would use his energy to create 2 flying crystals, which would reach the ground and become ground spires. Here we go again. I decided right then and there that I really wanted to see the ass. For this chase, I tried out NESS. The chase started off like the first 2. Except there was a river of piss. The ground inevitably reached a stop, so I rolled off into the piss. To my surprise, the sick fuck didn't follow after me. And sure enough, I heard the bellowing roar, sounding slightly different. And the monster followed after me with a new aquatic body. Oh, fuck! Halfway through the chase, the sick fuck revealed yet another surprise. A cock! The beast screamed with rage and jumped out of the blood river with one last attempt to drag me down. Hey, bitch! Now, I was headed onto the 5th world. And